Here's the third thing I want you to remember about family conflict. You ready? This is not going to make sense when I say it, but I want you to hear me out. Put it in the comments. Both order and ethics matter. When it comes to managing family conflict, both order and ethics matter. Yes, it's important that we honor our parents, that we honor our family members, that we honor those in our family that are older than us. That's the right thing to do. So when I say order matters, I mean, yeah, your parents, some of y'all not gonna like this. Just by virtue of your parents having you, you owe them respect. I'm telling you, I've had clients who have been severely mistreated by their parents. I don't have that testimony. I'm blessed. I believe I've got the greatest mom and dad that walked the face of the earth. But listen to me. By virtue of the simple fact that they had you, you owe them respect. And some of you are going to be struggling with that statement because you really, mentally and emotionally, it doesn't make sense. But if it made sense mentally and emotionally, then you would be able to receive it spiritually, because it really is a higher spiritual principle that you honor your mother and father regardless. So those of you without a spiritual compass, you won't get it. Well, Doc, my mom did this, my daddy did this, my mama won't this, my daddy won't this. I get it. There is such a thing as a bad parent. I get it. But honor in the context of your parents or those older or more seasoned than you, honor is a spiritual principle. This is why this world, this culture we live in, struggle with this. They struggle. I got clients right now, young clients that ain't talking to their parents, refuse to talk to them. You refuse to extend the olive branch, refuse to try to engage them. And I try to let them know. I try to let them know. To whom much is given, much more is required. When you're doing this work, you're working on the 5 areas of healing that I teach, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, financial healing. You're working to heal all areas of your life, and your folks ain't working on nothing, and they've been bad parents. Yeah, all of a sudden you become the adult. And the mature thing to do in that case is to act like you've been given more. It's hard. Well, Doc, you don't get it. I see it in the comments. My parents toxic. My parents this. My parents mean. My parents is that. My parents are liar. My parents is this. I get it. This is why it's a spiritual principle. You know why? Because to your mind and your emotions, what I'm saying right now don't make sense. To your mind and your emotions, what I'm saying makes zero sense. This ain't a matter of your mind and this ain't a matter of your emotions. This is a spiritual principle. That if they gave you life, you owe them honor. And a lot of people don't understand these kind of concepts because these are spiritual principles. And it's hard to explain a spiritual principle to someone who doesn't have a spiritual foundation. It's like me talking to this wall right here and expecting a response. Put this in all capital letters. Y'all know my favorite word. What am I about to tell you to type in the comments? Levels. Honor and honoring people in our family, particularly our parents and those that are older than us, that's a spiritual matter. Watch this. Age nor generation matters more than truth and what's right, which means truth and what's right is more important than who your mom and your daddy is. Truth and what's right is more important than who your grandma is and who your aunts and uncles are. Truth and what's right is more important than who your brothers, sisters, cousins are. So when I say both order and ethics matter, yeah, order matters in the sense of honor for sure. We owe our elders, our family members. If you're related to them, you should try to extend honor and respect and decency to your family. But none of that trumps ethics. Both order and ethics matter. Age and patriarchy is important. I believe in patriarchy. Every family has a matriarch and a patriarch that set the tone for families. But listen to me. While that's important, we got to stop giving a pass to dysfunction. Papa was a rolling stone. You got to be willing to admit that. That might explain some of the problems you got with relationships. Oh my God. Grandma was a rolling stone. You got to admit that. That might explain some problems reasons why you have a hard time keeping a man. I don't know. You gotta admit that. Doc, I can't admit that, Doc, because that's my grandma. It doesn't mean you're disrespecting them. You're being honest about what it was. And it's crazy. Because then y'all get grown. You get in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Your parents are either really old or unfortunately they're deceased. And you're dealing with all of these challenges. And you're like, Doc, I don't know where to point this to. And so once you finally start peeling back the onion and learning about your family history and who people were, then all of a sudden this stuff makes sense. You were hot in the pants because they were. And nobody Nobody had the courage to talk about it. Because in many of our families, we would rather ignore dysfunction and think that ignoring it will make it go away. So ignoring it becomes safe. Ignoring it doesn't ruffle the feathers. Ignoring it keeps everybody well. People go to their grave, spend the rest of eternity in their grave with secrets they take to their grave that living family members are afraid to discuss, not realizing that it is the discussion of those challenges that sometimes hold the key to you unlocking some of this family conflict you're dealing with. We have to be honest about this, because if we're not honest about the dysfunction that happens, regardless of age, regardless of generation, regardless of matriarch, patriarch, etc., if we're not honest about it, y'all, this is how we create what I call generations of dysfunction. The previous generation passes on to the next generation its dysfunction when the dysfunction of the previous generation has gone unchecked, undiscussed, undisclosed. You pass that dysfunction to the next generation, who has learned the same coping mechanisms of not talking about it, not addressing it, and you just continue to pass it to the next generation. This is how generational dysfunction passes from generation to generation. One thing that I've observed in my work, and just in conversations with friends and things like that too, I really do believe one of the flaws of the older generation, again, let me just say this plainly before y'all get upset. No generation is perfect. But can I say this? Every generation has its challenges. And one of the challenges of the older generation is that the older generation in many ways would have rather went to their grave with their secrets than to discuss those things with people in their family, make those things aware with people in their family, so that when they die, their family members are not left with the bag of drama. And I know many of you know this story. You've heard this story many times, where, papa, grandma, great papa, great grandma, auntie, uncle, whoever, somebody dies. Well, you know what you learn? You got a long lost cousin somewhere. You got a brother in 4 states that live 4 miles away that you never knew you had. It's that generation. One of the knocks to that silent generation that didn't have a lot of technology, but they had what they perceived to be loyalty, what they perceived to be protection. So I don't know, they could have meant well. I don't know if it was always the best approach. One of the knocks on that generation is that many of them went to their graves with secrets that then passed, with secrets that were later revealed that passed the dysfunction from their generation to the next one. I didn't say take your business and put it on social media, did I? Y'all are so absolute. I didn't say you need to print an article and put it in the newspaper. I said you need to make your family aware. People who are part of your bloodline. That ain't putting business in the street. That's letting your family know. This dysfunction has been passed to many of you. Many of you, instead of addressing problems, will just say, well, I'll just keep that in my head and I'll go to my grave with it. You're literally the recipients of that dysfunction, and you carry yourself that way. Okay, so this isn't as much about disparaging them as it is just about being honest about every generation. That, by the way, has its own flaws, y'all. We got to stop giving people a pass because they old. You got to stop giving people a pass because they're your cousin. You got to stop giving people a pass because they your brother, your sister. You got to stop giving people a pass on this dysfunction. Now, I'm not saying walk around and be the dysfunction police and all you're doing is spending all day pointing out what people did. I'm not talking about that, y'all. I'm talking about when situations arise where there is conflict in your family, having the courage and the authenticity to be able to speak about these things and do it in a way that is respectful, so that these things don't continue to perpetuate more conflict and drama and trauma into your family. Listen, y'all, I hope this made sense. If it did, I want you to type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then I want you to remember you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you.